everyone, my name is Alice Alenis, and today I'm going to be teaching the back squat. So this is my client Wei. So one of the most important aspects of teaching a lift, especially a compound lift, is having a client understand what muscles they're working. So in this case, when applied to motor skills training, we're talking about proprioception. So this refers to the conscious awareness of body and limbs and has several distinct properties: passive motion sense, active motion sense, limb position sense, and the sense of heaviness. So this is all related to lifting, and a common concept that you will see in lifting is mind to muscle connection. So this is where a client understands what muscle they're working with each specific movement. So the squat specifically targets the gluteus maximus. I'm going to point to the muscles. I have my client's consent. So this is the gluteus maximus. Next is the hip flexor, which can be found on the anterior portion of the body. Hip flexor muscles, quadriceps, which is also on the anterior portion of the body. If you could turn around, sir. The next muscle it targets is the lower back. It also targets hamstrings, which are here, and calf muscles, in addition to the abdominal muscles. So now that my client understands where he should feel the movement, we're going to start with the first exercise. And this is going to be in order to get the client comfortable with depth and comfortable with moving their body in a squat motion. So what we're gonna have my client do is face the mirror. So if you could walk within 1 foot of the mirror. That looks about right. So now what we're gonna use the mirror for is I want you to watch your knee positioning. I don't want your knees to extend past your knees or past your toes. Additionally, I want your knees to extend how it feels comfortably, so it can either go out or in. And I want you to keep your back straight throughout the whole movement. So now that my client has received instruction on how to perform the squat, they will perform it to the best of their abilities. So Wei, you can perform the squat. So as you can tell, when he was descending, he leaned forward, so he wasn't able to maintain a straight back. Additionally, his knees extended past his toes. So on this next round, we're going to focus on sitting back into the squat, so push through your heels and focus on the hip hinging movement of the squat. So I want you to put your hands above your head, slightly turn your toes in a little bit. This will help keep your knees in line. And now I want you to squat down, focusing on pushing through your heels and keeping your back straight. That was much better. That was much better. As you can see in the second attempt, he was able to maintain an upright position. He did lose his balance, but that was because of the depth. So this time, I don't expect you to go all the way down. Go the farthest down you can without losing your balance, and go slowly. So same position, put your hands above your head, your feet look good, sit back into the squat, slowly, and then right about there you can come back up. So as you can tell, he was able to maintain a neutral position of his spine, his knees did not extend past his toes, and he didn't lose his balance. So when we're dealing with new clients, it's important to understand that they're not gonna get the depth right away, just like they're not gonna be able to get the weight. But teaching them proprioception and teaching them where they should feel the movement and how it should feel will protect their safety and allow them to perform compound movements in an effective way. The second step towards teaching a squat is progressive overload. So right now we're gonna get my client comfortable with using a bar, which traditionally they would use a barbell, but because they're a beginner, we're gonna start with something light like a broomstick. It resembles the motion of holding a barbell without the weight. So it's going to be beneficial for helping them maintain that upright position, which in novice lifters you oftentimes don't see because they're lacking core strength or they're just not comfortable with the movement. So during this process, it's important to emphasize the feedback. So there is feedback, which is knowledge of results. which can be described as the information related to the performance outcome, and there's also knowledge of performance, which is related to a specific movement. So I'm going to be applying both concepts. Knowledge of performance is feedback I'm going to give during the performance of the exercise, whereas knowledge of results is what I'm going to give once he has completed the exercise. So first, what I want you to do is, similarly to the exercise we just ran, I want you to squat. Once again, maintain a neutral position, make sure your knees don't go past your toes, and try to stay upright so you can perform it. So as you can see, he is leaning forward during this movement. So this is where degrees of freedom is going to come in. So freezing the degrees of freedom is a concept where we focus on one aspect of a lift at a time. So here, what you can see is his knee positioning is good, it's not extending beyond his toes, but we need to focus on the upper body. So for this exercise, what I want you to do, Wei, is don't focus on the depth, just focus on maintaining an upright position. So I'll let you know whenever you start leaning forward, and when you lean forward, that's when I want you to stop and come back up to the top of the movement. So try squatting once again. Okay, you can come up. Did you feel when you were moving forward? Okay, so we're gonna try a little slower this time. And what I want you to do is, as soon as you feel yourself moving forward, freeze. So go down, freeze, there you go. Okay, now come back up. That was perfect. So if you saw, he felt himself moving forward, so he froze in the position and was able to come back up without losing his balance. He was a little wobbly there, but with time, he'll get better at it. So this concept kind of allows an individual to focus on one movement at a time. Had his knees not been in alignment with his toes or extended beyond his toes, we would have focused on correcting that as well. But it really wasn't necessary considering his form during the lift. So if you could perform it one more time, just to make sure all concepts were understood. Good job, that was great. So what I just conducted right there was a knowledge of result feedback. So I was able to indicate what Wei did not accomplish the first time. We corrected it on the second attempt, and on the third attempt, he was able to perform the squat in proper form. So next, we're gonna move on to a squat with weight. So for the last step of this presentation, we're gonna have Wei apply all the concepts that I taught earlier and have him perform a goblet squat. So what this involves, if you could show the camera, Wei, is holding a weight in front of you like so, and you can turn sideways again, and squatting down while holding the weight. So this is going to be the most difficult of the three lifts because it involves balance and weight. So if you could perform the squat to the best of your abilities, I will not provide feedback until after you have completed the movement. You can squat. So overall, that was good. The only thing I would say is be careful with moving your feet during the lift, but other than that, you performed it really well. So when it comes to injury prevention, it's actually good that something happened so I can speak more on it. But when it comes to novice lifters, injury prevention is usually vital in the lower part of the body. So if you see in the knees, if you could just demonstrate knees extending beyond the toes, Wei, when you squat down, there you go. So if you can tell, not only did he lose his balance, but he was standing on his toes at the bottom of the lift. So that can lead to a lot of strain on the knee and can cause a lot of tension and potential tears whenever you get into heavier lifts. So it's important for a lifter to remember to push through the heels and maintain proper balance throughout the whole lift. Additionally, another issue that we saw earlier in the presentation was leaning forward too much when performing the squat. So if you could demonstrate that way. So one of the risks of leaning forward in a lift is you're not going to be able to push as much weight. So it also poses a risk to one's back. upper and lower back. Just too much strain once again. So those are the main two issues with performing a squat that can be potential risks when an individual starts lifting heavier weights and more frequently. So just to summarize, we went through a wall exercise where Wei was facing a mirror. He put his hands above his head and he performed a squat that way. That was in an effort to teach him not to lean forward too much so he wouldn't touch the wall, in addition to focusing on keeping his knees in a neutral position and not extending beyond his toes. The second lift, involving the broomstick, was used in a similar fashion. However, it resembled a barbell with little to no weight in an effort to get Wei comfortable with that movement and that position in general. And lastly, we went through a goblet squat. Where I showed Wei how to squat with a weight, and we talked about injury prevention, types of feedback, proprioception, and Wei, do you have any questions on the squat? No?
No. I do not have